take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice long
Welcome
hair.
back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube so you don't miss a training camp update, and rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcasts. Just search for Unbearable Sports on your phone. What's going on? We are going to be talking through day 4 of training camp, and also tomorrow is finally an off day for the Chicago Bears. Also, it's been confirmed that on Friday, pads will go on for the Chicago Bears, so we can finally start to see the offensive line, defensive line, and have better ideas of what is going on across the board. But today, we have 5 key takeaways that we'll be talking about. And as always, we'll start breaking down some of the injuries that you need to know about, starting out with Keenan Allen, Mercedes Lewis, no injuries, but they weren't playing out there because taking a vet day. This is also something we should think about moving forward too, because Keenan Allen, as we approach preseason, he's someone that has not played a single snap of preseason games in, I believe, 4 years. So as we talk about Keenan Allen and the vets, and are they going to play with Caleb Williams, he doesn't really do that. So something just to be of note and something to keep in mind. But also, too, the only other thing that is worth noting is that Kyler Gordon was present but didn't participate in team periods, while Braxton Jones and TJ Edwards continue to work their way back into full participation. That right there was from Josh Sharrock of NBC Sports Chicago. Does a very good job at keeping track of who's there and who's not. But let's start talking a little bit about some of the people that really impressed today. And I want to start with the King. We have not talked about this guy at all, really, but he's starting to take headlines. And that's Gervon Dexter. His stock is up, and people are excited about Gervon Dexter because Gervon, there's a whole bunch of hypes. So Adam Johns gave him 2 thumbs up. They were talking about it on the Hogan Johns podcast yesterday, and they're like, so what do you think about Gervon Dexter? And he's like, raising up his hands, saying he looks good, he looks thin, and also you see more and more details coming out when Eric Washington was asked about him. And he said the level of focus that he has as a second-year player is pretty uncommon. And just everything that people are talking about, just the vibes are up with Gervon Dexter. And also, big news was his conditioning. Was that the conditioning that Gervon was putting himself through was as a defensive end. And if you think about it, and you look at the other defensive ends that we have, they're thinner than Gervon Dexter. They're not the big body players, but they're saying that Gervon Dexter, he shed that weight, he's eating healthier, and hey, he was running with the defensive end. So he took their training and he looks thinner and he's performing at that level too. So good vibes with Gervon, because that's what we want to see out of this 3 technique. We want to see the explosiveness. We want to see the quickness of that. Now, Adam Hogue of CHGO did say, hey, he still needs to see a little bit more of that get off, which I know has always kind of been a question with Gervon's game, but it's nice to hear that he is overall looking a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, and even Courtney Cronin chimed in and said, just talking about how he looks more confident this year and how last year he had to learn and unlearn a whole bunch of different pieces because in his system at Florida, it was more of a read and react. So as the play happens, he then has to react to that. So that's why you saw the slow get off. He was asked to do something different. Here in Chicago, he's attacking. He needs to get to the quarterback. He needs to kind of get and kind of create more of that penetration rather than read and react style. So big ups to Gervon Dexter. I'm pretty sure we're all excited to hear that and just continue to see this player, second-year player out of Florida. Also, a little tidbit too is that also Zach Pickens has made some plays, because I know some people have been curious about him, but just overall, it's kind of what we expect about Zach Pickens. Makes those splash plays every now and again, but isn't necessarily dominating the training camp practices as what's being reported. Next, the center battle. As we all want to know, what's the center update, what's going on with the center. And now it was Coleman Shelton's turn to take the starting snaps. Really nothing else to talk about except we know that this is going to be a true competition, and it'll be interesting to see as we get closer, probably after the first preseason game, not the Hall of Fame game, but after that first preseason game, who gets the starting reps? And also, do we start to see them start picking favorites of who is their more favorite center that they want to have with Caleb Williams? But speaking of that, we have to talk about Caleb Williams, and as we always do, how is Caleb Williams looking? And right now, another stock up for Caleb Williams. Now, there's still some down pieces that did happen. Nothing's perfect, but we have Cassie Carlson saying, felt like Caleb Williams' best day. Decisive. Connected with Tyler Scott on a deep ball, nearly picked off by Sanborn, intended for Gerald Everett. And then 79th and Hallis also said, another light day and pads don't come on till later this week, but it was a good day for the offense. Caleb displayed what fans have wanted from a quarterback for decades. So it's great to just hear people saying, like Cassie Carlson just flat out saying, hey, this felt like his best day. And Courtney Cronin and Adam Hogue both had the same sentiment that they're not seeing a lot of false starts. They're not seeing a lot of these delay of games. There might have been one today, but it's a very smooth operating and, as they described, a well-oiled practice. And this is coming from a rookie who's learning a new system. And it just speaks more to how Caleb really just runs the practice and looks during practice. And for those watching too, you can see this is a little video snippet from CHGO. They have a whole bunch of different videos out there. Just Caleb being accurate, throwing the football. All vibes are going well with Caleb Williams and just how he looks overall out there on the football field. Now, something that I do want to mention as well is that even though that vibes are good and things are good, nothing to be concerned about with Caleb, when he did throw that ball to Tyler Scott, it looks like, hey, it was a good throw, but Tyler Scott ended up dropping it. It sounded like is that he didn't have his feet in bounds and just basically wasn't able to secure that pass. So kind of a down description of Tyler Scott. You hear that he gets open, busted coverage, and then he's not able to capitalize with the play. That's something that we're all kind of concerned about with Tyler Scott is, can he come down and make these big plays? So next little bit too is with Caleb Williams, as reported by Nicholas Moriano. Nicholas Moriano stated the first team offense came up short in the 2-minute drill to end practice. The offense started at the 40-yard line, down 21-17 with a minute 20 on the clock. Caleb Williams hit DeAndre Carter, Colin Johnson, and Khalil Herbert to start the drive. Then Williams ran to the right after Jacob Martin beat Darnell Wright around the edge. Williams then hit Rome Odunze and Carter on the next two plays. Then the offense stalled with 3 straight incompletions to Herbert, Odunze, and Cole Kmet. The rep to Kmet was a 4th and 6 and then there was a play in the back of the end zone by Tremaine Edmonds, had good coverage on the play. So that's a whole bunch of stuff. But basically what you need to know with this is, hey, everything that I'm hearing, they drove down very successfully. It looked good. But then the defense came up big and stopped them in the red zone with only those 6 yards to go. Now, the only thing too with that as well is it sounds like there's 2 consecutive throws to Cole Kmet, and both seemed off, as in Williams and Kmet's chemistry just was a little bit off, like kind of some poor communication, which is a little concerning with it. But still, they're like, no matter how you kind of slice it, it's nice that they were driving down the field, but then at the end, just ultimately wasn't able to capitalize on that. But then also Stevenson made a good play on Rome Odunze as well to break up the football. And then Edmonds made back-to-back pass defenses on 3rd and 4th down to get them out. So overall, the drill was good. You just would like to see a touchdown. So kudos to the defense. So now we need to flip over to the defense because we have 2 more takeaways that I have for camp. And who's this? That's right. This is someone that I've talked about and I've not been, I've kind of said it like this, like he's the new Rasheem Green this year where I don't expect much. But today was a good day for none other than Jacob Martin. Jacob Martin is the current backup to DeMarcus Walker, and we've talked about him before on this show. We talked about him when we were breaking down the defensive ends, where he's really that Rasheem Green as kind of that backup, the backups where he should just give you solid production. That's what you're kind of hoping for. You can always get better. But hey, we got to give this man his flowers. He looked good. CBS Chicago saw some flashes from defensive lineman Jacob Martin today. Defensive coordinator Eric Washington echoed that. He said he's doing a nice job. Says Martin has great speed and quickness and can be a 3-down defender. Mentioned he comes out early every day. And just with everything, Jacob Martin was even out there with the first team session, him and Montez Sweat. And then on the inside, it was actually Dominique Robinson and Zach Pickens. Probably just trying something out on that interior. Can Robinson play a little bit interior, kind of like as a third down specialist or something like that? But ultimately, Jacob Martin, solid day. And you've heard it too, beating Darnell Wright to kind of push Caleb Williams outside. Jacob Martin having a good day of practice. Now, does that mean that we should expect the Jacob Martin breakout like Terrell Smith or Terrell Lewis or anything like that? I don't think so. I think it's just, hey, we want to see this fourth stringer, right, do well. But also, same thing with the defensive ends. Austin Booker has been getting in with the first teams a little bit as well. And it's something that we know that he's a developmental prospect, but it's nice to see, hey, he's gotten in and snuck in with some first team reps, because it does feel like he can look good. And just overall, from what people are saying, the vibes are good with Austin Booker as well. So another thing to be optimistic at. And last but not least, my fifth takeaway, because I didn't talk about this too much yesterday, but we all know our defense loves to chirp. And yesterday, after the day 3 of practice, the offense was chirping at the defense. And DeMarcus Walker was actually asked about this, and he said, hey, I like that they're chirping back. That's what you want. It's that big brother, little brother type of a conversation. And so it's nice to know, hey, offense is chirping. But today the defense was chirping. Jack Sanborn almost picked off Caleb Williams. And honestly, a lot of people saying, you got to make that play. He read it, he jumped the route, and he just needed to capitalize and actually get that pass. But then also, 79th and Hallis reported, such is the nature of things. Defenses can be cooked in 10 straight plays, but get one good play, and they're as loud as humanly possible. So yeah, ultimately it sounds like the defense, they made some good plays like we talked about at the very tail end of that 2-minute drive, and then they hold up. And they're going to chirp. They're going to talk. And there's a lot of reports out there just of this defense talking with that swagger. But that's about it for day number 4. The only other pieces too, I've heard some people talk about Swift, just a little bit about how Swift as a running back has that little bit of juice, has that little bit of burst. And same thing with Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert still looking good, and Swift looking quick and looking fast. So great vibes all around with training camp. But like we said, the Chicago Bears have off tomorrow. I might post a different episode just kind of recapping some pieces. So you want to make sure to stay here, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know what's going on, and also download the podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and click follow, and then you can get all of our updates throughout training camp. Pads come on Friday, and it's also the first public practice. I have someone that will be out there and will get a report back. So I'm excited. Make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and